you mentioned, hey, today, the people we've hired or brought on, we've had more better experience with than before. And so what have you learned in building your team over the years?
I'm going to be blunt with this.
Yeah.
I won't hire a guy that's married with kids that has a mortgage.
I know, and we've talked about that. So explain why.
I won't hire somebody with probably very unlikely with prior residential or commercial experience. You come with bad habits. The fee splits at our firm are brutal, okay? Because you split with the firm, you split with the team. But we do so much volume that you can make so much more money. Imagine doing one deal a year, you get 100% of the commission. Then imagine doing 7 deals where you get 30%. Now your name is out there and everybody knows you. So your brand grows significantly faster by doing 7 deals than one, plus your skill set grows too.
Especially if you're a new guy. I mean, like,
100%,
how else are you going to learn this
100%,
stuff? Like,
exactly.
Just
Your
the deal
splits go
volume.
up.
Your splits go up in time.
As you prove that you're doing what you're doing and you're making money and things like that. Because remember what I said earlier, if I'm training you, I'm losing money, okay? So what we focus on now, and what we found it very successful, is younger guys have a lot of energy. They want to succeed in life. They live at home with their parents. They have a cheap rice beater car, and they have very low monthly expenses. Because you could go a year without making a nickel. Now, granted, both of the guys on our team now that have been there they're about a year and a half, they're doing very well. Both have made $30,000 to $40,000 their first year. One is geared up to make 6 figures this year.
That quick.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Because he's doing everything we tell him to do, and he's executing, and he's learning quickly.
Work ethic.
Great work ethic.
Yep.
You have to be consistent,
find.
right? Totally. Yeah,
These days.
consistency with those phone calls and all that. So the primary lead source for you guys is dialing and building relationships. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
You have a
talk to
pretty good
people.
internal database, right? That you built, the firm has built, or is that just a team by team database?
Team by team has built the database within Marcus Millichap.
So so you don't share information, let's say, with another multifamily team that's
Never.
okay, got
Correct.
it. Okay.
You know
so you're on 2 different islands.
The 2 most
Yes,
valuable
yes.
piece of information a client has is his cell phone, which they very rarely ever change anymore because you can take your number to different carriers, and their personal email. Now, if they share that with you, it's gold. You don't give that to anybody. For one, you don't want anybody cold calling your client. Let them call the office and get through the secretary like I did for 7 years to get a cell phone, all right? Let them figure that out.
So hiring, that's interesting in how you built your team. And so you got 2 guys now that are working with you.
One started when he was 19 years old.
Nice.
Okay.
So these are blank
One's
slates.
out of college.
You want blank slates,
Yes.
clean slates.
Yep.
They could have been like you, a bartender, or someone like you living at home with their parents at 30, 31 or whatever it was. And that's a preferred candidate. You want someone that you can mold, that you can train, build, grow, not someone who comes in with bad habits, right? That's what I'm hearing.
And that's different from maybe other businesses. Some people want experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is a different thing. And I think you touched on it. You want guys that can hang in there for the long term, not make a whole bunch of money short term, because it just doesn't happen right away in your business.
Yeah, I would get people from other firms. Well, when I was in this firm, we used to do this way. I'm like, how'd that work out for you? Why are you here then? Yeah. You're here because you want to make money and you want to do it right. So listen, what I'm telling you to do, this is a proven way to do it. I'm a proven example. Evan's a very good proven example. And I didn't move back in with my parents, but I moved in with 2 roommates. Okay, I cut costs, so you do whatever you have to do. But I sit agents down and I say, look, you have to understand the cost structure of you being here. Yeah, you're not making any money right now, but the firm to sit you down on that desk on average pays $56,000 a year. And all the things it provides you to sit you in that desk. And then I'm spending my money on you. You're 6 figures in debt every year you sit here, but you don't have to repay that debt. All you have to do is make yourself money. This is an opportunity, a very big opportunity.
Yeah, you can look at it like going to college, frankly, right? Yeah.
One of the guys, River Rhodes, who's very promising on our team, he went to college, real estate, got a degree in real estate, I think real estate development or finance or something like that.
Yeah, finance and real estate.
I learned more, he said, I learned more here in 6 months than I did my entire college career.
Without a doubt.
It's like I had no idea this is what real estate worked.
Yeah.
Underwriting, numbers. He's like, they never taught us any of this.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many investors out there doing so many unique, cool things, different stuff that he's having conversations about, trying to figure out on a daily basis, and then working with you guys.
Yeah.
And real-time knowledge is
it's just
invaluable.
invaluable.
Dylan, the 19-year-old who looks like he's 13, He's
That's right. I
He's
meant
20 now. He's
I meant
almost 21. He's almost 21.
20. He's almost 20. Okay,
He can
he's
almost
not even
drink.
started.
Yeah.
So he's almost 21. He's still a little boy in my eyes. But he had a full ride to multiple colleges. He had like a 4.6 GPA. Says, I'm not going to college. This is where I know I can be successful, make money.
Smart guy. Smart guy.
I love that. That's interesting.
that.
That's really
Yeah.
cool. Follow your passion. That's
That's a whole different discussion. I think we're
Right,
going to
right.
start to see more of that in the future, as college debt becomes much
But
more.
imagine this kid at the age of 24, 25, when most kids are graduating college with a degree that I don't know what the degree is, but chances are you need more education to get a good job.
Yeah.
And he's 6 years deep into real estate.
making multiple six figures, in his mid-20s. That's a possibility.
With
Possibility with
For
his
sure.
trajectory,
Of course,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
And within
if
5,
he
6 years.
continues doing what it is, it's a definitely going to happen.
I often think about that too because I was an engineer for many years working for General Electric before I started my own thing.
I was a bartender.
Yeah. So there you go. So we were
this a lot sooner.
doing something else, and if I had started in the real estate space in 2010 as an example, instead of being in totally different, it'd be a different situation right now. I'd have a lot more. A lot
Money.
more under my back.
I have a lot more money.
Your bank account would be ridiculous.
Why are people even listening to this
I think
podcast?
I'd be
Say it again,
retired.
Jaron.
A
Say it
lot more
again.
money.
There you go. All right.
Yeah.
So you guys learned how to hire over the years. What other experiences, hurdles, tough situations have you dealt with that you feel like you've overcome in building this business?
Geez.
I think I'd say just
Take it, Evan.
yeah, life in general, right? Things, whether it's a health issue that pops up, whether it's, something personally, family wise, things along those lines. It's just, you never know, to a certain extent, right? Surprises happen. And those are some of the challenge, I think, just on the, surface level in terms of what you have to go through. And so I think just being consistent and not letting those things just completely throw you off track, which can be hard sometimes, right? We all have certain things that we're working through potentially and what have you. So
Because you have tell me if I'm wrong here, but you have a weekly, I'll call it a grind. I mean, maybe at this point you're just so used to it, it's just your normal work day or work schedule, but there's certain times where you're on calls, right? I mean, do you schedule, hey, on these days I'm supposed to just be outbound calls, not taking incoming calls?
Don't walk in my office. Don't interrupt me.
Right. Doesn't matter if your girlfriend broke up with you and you're upset, you got to make the calls, right?
Compartmentalize all your
gotta
personal
compartmentalize.
problems when you
Right,
come to
right.
this business.
That's what I'm
because-
getting at. Yeah.
Yeah. You can't call your clients and go, hey, this happened to me. And they're
Right.
like, dude, where's my rent survey?
right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Maybe they give you a couple days, but
Let me
after
go
a
call
week goes by
CBRE,
or something,
yeah.
let me.
Right.
Hey, I'm going to talk to someone else that's got.
But
maybe
that's
some
part of
work
being
together.
that's part of being, a man anyway. In my, it's just, you got to compartmentalize your personal problems and you got to do your business. You got to grind. You want to be successful. You can't be a victim in anything.
Yeah.
Agreed. I like to call that type of stuff like non-negotiable items in the business, right? So
I like
it's like
that. I like the way that.
you're making phone calls. And how many hours a week and how many people you're dialing. That's a non-negotiable. Like you have to do that. The world could be falling down around you. We're making phone calls, and that's one of my non-negotiables. Phone calls for my business. Yep.
I'm fascinated by this, so I want to ask one more question on the phone calls. I've brought it up a couple times now. It's because in my business as a lawyer, almost all of my leads are incoming leads. So, and it would look probably improper. In fact, it's probably unethical for me to be cold calling possible clients or calling multifamily homeowners who might need eviction services or might need closing services. So I'm not used to the cold calling. That's why I find it fascinating because there's also a fear that almost everyone has, I would say, and I definitely have it, is a fear of rejection. So how do you get over that fear when you're first starting out in the business and you're calling 40, 50, 100 multifamily owners a day and you're either not getting them to pick up or they pick up and they hang up on you, or how do you?
The first thing to understand about the fear of rejection is what it's linked to. It's linked to the fear of death.
Okay.
In your mind, in the lizard part of your brain that evolved, being rejected by somebody is the same thing as getting kicked out of the cave and dying in the wilderness alone. So you have to understand that it's an unrealistic fear. That fear of rejection you have, it's unrealistic. Same thing if you go hit on a girl, she turns you down, you're not going to die. People aren't going to gather around you and club you to death. It's not going to happen. So it's an unrealistic fear. Walking on the edge of a building and jumping from building to building, that's a realistic fear. Be afraid. But you have to learn how to turn that switch off. There's nothing scary about it. You're just going to get rejected. And what happens is when you get rejected, which you will when you first start cold calling a lot, and if you can't stomach it, it's not for you. But you have to understand that switch. You're not going to die. It's the same fear. Turn it off and move forward. You know, some people face jumping from building to building and they turn that fear off. You can call a stranger and try to get him to talk to you for 5 seconds. But the point of cold calling is get that fear of rejection, fear of death under control, and make the call and just try to add value. But you have to understand when you're cold calling somebody, the burden of the conversation is on you. You can't expect to go, well, how are you doing today? And then have them carry half of the conversation for the first 5 minutes. They're going to be like, who are you? The burden is on you to continue to carry in the conversation, which means you have to have things to offer value to some degree. When you're in that cold call and you're talking and he's not responding much and you're just like, well, how are you having problems with this? Hey, how's the insurance market going for you? You know, I noticed the guy down the street renovated these units and he's getting this much more in rent. How are you getting? Eventually, you're going to hit on a subject that's a problem for him or something that he wants to talk about. The moment he asks you a question, well, that's a great question. Let's talk about that. When can you meet?
Amazing.
Because I call that the hook point. The moment he says he's interested in what you have to say because you've kept him on the phone long enough and you've touched on a subject that interests him. And in reality, you're offering value. You actually do want to offer value, but it's much better in person. Because that's a skill set most people have lost these days, person-to-person contact. It's 5-second, 10-second videos on the phone, emails, Zoom calls. It's very impersonal. I like to look people in the eyes when I'm talking to them because I want them to see my eyes too, because then they're going to trust me. They're going to see the genuine look in my eyes and look on my face.
And if they take the time to meet with you, there's a level
Always
of commitment
value
there from them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you both get value out of that.
I'll add on the cold call side, a lot of it also, I think, is just accepting that this is how you get started in the business. A lot of people want to find other ways. Well, I'm going to go to networking events and I'm going to send out letters. Well, those things are great, but
Just doesn't work.
that's going to take you extremely long time to make.
Yeah.
Right. It's just a supplement. So accepting that all the very successful
Good point, Evan.
agents, brokers in this office that, like you said, are now millionaires from doing this from years and years and, have huge real estate portfolios and all these great things. This is how they get started. Believe it, whether you want to believe it or not, you have to accept this is how you really jumpstart your business and, shorten that time frame from being brand new to being very successessul.
You got to face thousands of hang-ups and lose my numbers to get to the destination, which is being a millionaire.
I want to tell you one personal story. Okay, one personal story about Derek. Okay, there was a specific client in the marketplace that hated brokers. Derek cold called him one time, and he picked up the phone. And he says, "I'm not meeting you. I'm never going to meet you." He's like, "Well, unfortunately, and I want to apologize up front, but I called your wife by accident first because I thought that was your number. And apparently you're going to meet me because we're having a blueberry muffin bake-off at your house next Saturday. And it's not what I asked, but we were talking about muffins, and I make amazing muffins, and she said she makes the best. And he's like, my wife does make blueberry muffins, and they're the best. He's like, well, we're going to find out. And for whatever reason, he did actually call the guy's wife at first, and he had a great conversation with the wife. I'm sorry, I thought this was so-and-so. And she goes, oh, no, it's okay. I'm just making some muffins. He goes, well, if you want to talk about muffins. And he met the client, and it's been a lifelong client of his because he just had a way of connecting with human beings like that. If you just, it's one of those things where cold calling is you just detach from what you want and you pay attention to the conversation and you let the conversation guide itself.
Yeah. Derek was the best person I've ever met in my entire life at building trust, relationships, bonds through laughter, through
more of a personal connection,
connections, coming out of left field with responses, and he came from a place of love, is what it was, and people could feel that over the phone, and they almost feel loved on the phone. They're like, who is this guy that's love bombing me in a good way? And he was genuine about it. It wasn't love bombing has negative connotations that people take it away. He would never take it away. It was just consistently positive and giving. So that's also
you like me.
Yeah, exactly.
You will love me.
I want to suffocate you with my love. Yeah, exactly. No, he was amazing with that. One other thing about your team, and I hate to go backwards just a second, but you mentioned that you have a couple agents, newer agents that work for you. Do you have other members of your team to support staff as well?
I'm glad you went back to that. We do have an analyst and marketing coordinator. We also have office staff that helps us as well.
Okay.
But we're looking to bring somebody else on the team, but we're very, like I said, we're very picky on who we bring on. We're also very picky on the timing. I don't want to bring on 3 new agents and then just not have enough time to donate to them, because we're spread too thin that way. We brought on one, we got him started, he got working, he started making a little bit of money. And then we brought the second one on, and now they're both being almost independent in a sense. We still go on all the meetings with them. We still engage with them on every single property, every single thing, because we're solving problems they don't understand. But we want to make sure that before we bring another agent on to train them, that the other ones are almost self-sufficient. We don't want to take away from them. We want to have the amount of time dedicated towards these guys, because, like I said, they're coming in making no money for a year. They at least deserve that.
In addition to that, we have capital markets team as well.
Yeah, we have our own debt team as well.
Essentially, an extension or part of our team,
and
that we work closely with.
They're fantastic as well. David and
I've worked with them as well.
Those guys,
We also have an amazing attorney that we use a lot for evictions and title work.
Well, I'm blushing now. So I'm speechless. One of the few times I'll be speechless.
Part of the team,
that you'll ever
you just
see.
don't know it yet. You'll be getting your cards in the mail next week.
I love it. So just to wrap up this part of this about your team, let's say there's some realtors out there, or whether they're residential or maybe they dabble a little bit of multifamily, and they want to grow. Let's say they're a sole practitioner. They've been working in the residential real estate market for a while, and they want to build a team under them. Any other advice that you have based on your experiences, or just from a general?
I've talked to a lot of residential real estate agents that have built teams, and I'm not saying that they're not all successful, but I find the same trend that I found in the past with the people I brought on, is they tend to get to the point where their skill set is just good enough to where they think that they don't need their mentors anymore. And they think, well, if I go off on my own, I'll make a lot more money because the splits will go up. And they do that and they fail. Not because they're not competent, but because they're not getting the volume and the branding that they would as a larger team. So if I list a deal that the other guys get very low percentage on, they're still on that deal. And their names are on all the marketing, all the packaging. They cold call on it. It's as if they just listed a $15, $20 million deal and they've been in the business for 3 months.
Yeah.
So they miss that. And the advice I would give anybody wanting to build a team is be careful who you bring on, because people will take all that training. Like I said, I lose money when I train somebody.
Time is money.
And they'll leave. And so
time is money.
It's like almost an investment I make in somebody. So if I'm going to make an investment in somebody, I want to make sure I get a return. But again, a synergistic team that works really well, interdependent, which means 1 + 1 = 3, not 1 + 1 = 2. You want that. So if you can train these guys from the beginning that the value that you're giving them is going to be there forever, and it will, because a good team can take over the world. You get a solid 5 guys on a real estate team, you can conquer a market. I mean, you can crush a market. You can crush all your competition with a good, close-knit team. I'm talking about a team that isn't going like, well, I can make more money over here if I leave. If I do this behind this and do that. No.
Yeah, makes sense. What about you, Larry? Because you
I
have your own
totally-
real estate team. Is this resonating with you?
I totally agree with this. I think just the, like you just said, say you have 5 killers, right? And those 5 killers are all branding the same, right? I mean, just that alone is hugely impactful, especially in the resi space, because you're everywhere now.
Yes.
Versus like you're maybe a fifth of that or less than a fifth of that, right? Because obviously the synergy.
Now you're like everyone else.
Yeah, exactly. So because you're everywhere now, you're generating way more lead traffic, way more credibility because of that itself. And my mom and I together, we've been able to conquer certain areas of Boca here because of that, or become the dominant agent. We'll call it dominant agent in certain areas of Boca because she's picking up some, I'm picking up some. And then together we're branding all that as one, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, you guys are everywhere all the time." And it's like, yeah, well, we're both working together, and we're creating that synergy, that synergistic effect. That's one value add piece of it. I think there's so many more pieces to that too, like not just from generating listings in business, but also just the digital presence. Now you have 2x or more than 2x the amount of volume that's being pushed into.
That's it. Right there. It's the volume and the branding. When people see your name on 20, 30, 40, 50 listings, And, here's a $10 million, $8 million, a $4 million deal. Man, this guy is everywhere. I remember this. What really hit me is when we first formed our team. It was 7 months into forming the team. It was Derek, myself, and another guy by the name of Tall Friedman. And we met this guy at a property we had just listed, 103 units in Fort Lauderdale. And I'm not going to mention his name, but very big owner. And he was touring the property with Derek and I. And I had cold called him in the past. He basically told me to F off. I don't talk to brokers. He was just one of those okay, that guy, I'm never going to get a relationship with that guy. It's just like shut down. He walked the property because he got our flyer and he wanted to see the property. He wanted to buy it. And he walked the property. He said, "Hey, Daniel?" It's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh my God, it's a pleasure to meet you. I've seen you everywhere. Man, you're out there all over the place, man. It's a really pleasure to meet you." He was enthusiastic with meeting me. And I told him, when I used to cold call you, you used to tell me to F. Yeah, I know. It's just I get so many calls. But it was the branding.
Yeah.
He was excited to meet me.
Sure. Yeah. Because they know that you have something they want too.
Right.
You realize
Yes.
they can want multiple things. Let's say they're just selling their portfolio. They want you because they know that your presence is out there, that you have so many buyers that are coming to you. So that's one thing they could want. Or alternatively, on the flip side, maybe they want to sell that property, 1031 it into a bigger property, and they know that you have so many listings as well.
Right.
So they want to deal with the big dog in the area, and
the branding is what gives you that
Yeah.
that presence of the big dog.
Sure.
It gives you that presence, like that person's everywhere.
And you have 5 people, 5 times the value of transactions to like information to give, right? You've learned maybe 5 times the amount of stuff you would learn in a specific period of time if you were on your own, right? So that's the other thing too. Like with a team, you have more volume, so you can afford a in-service or in-field service rep. So that guy's putting on lock boxes, all these other things that adds value for the customer as well. So like there's like all these additional value adds you get with building a team of killers as well.
Yep.
That's a huge thing. You get back end support, all that stuff that Marcus Millichap offers you. With my little team, I can afford to do those things too. So we have 3-4 staff sitting in an office all day just handling the back end of stuff, which makes us so much faster, so much more efficient, and that's just value add to the client, right? So
That's exactly what it's like. Like we've had certain situations where we're like, "Dylan, I know this is not a deal in your marketplace. You're making like a fraction of the commission because everybody makes something off every deal, even if it's a tiny percent, to keep the synergy between the team. I know this isn't your deal, but can you show it this Thursday?"
that's another thing.
And he'll go do it, and he'll be like, "You got it," because he knows that we'll do the same for him. Any member of the team will do the same for him if he can't do something for his properties. And everybody will help each other. And it's not a matter of, I did these open houses for you, I should get more. It's not. There's never negotiations like that because it's understood. It's a synergistic. We all help each other.
Right, and that gives Dylan or whoever it may be the case to, or in a situation, to go out and meet that person. Hey, maybe that doesn't mean they're going to listing right away, but guess what? The next time they pick up the phone to call that investor, "Oh yeah, I remember meeting him. He was nice guy, personable, could add a lot of value." Okay, he's going to take his phone call now, and just helps everybody on the team grow together that way.
And I think building relationships in your business is on a level even more important than in my business. My business it's important, right? But it's these guys are the same players that are playing over and over.
You're doing
and
2 or 3
over
deals
again.
a year with the same guy.
Forever. Yeah.
Helps if he really likes you and he trusts you. That's 85% of commercial real estate business is just getting people to like you.
Yeah.